Genesis chapters 6 through 9 tell us of an event that changed the course of human history, the Great Flood in Noah's time. This catastrophe nearly destroyed all of humanity. Only Noah's family of 8 survived. They became the ancestors of all humanity after the flood. The biblical story of the Great Flood is widely known. But have you ever wondered, what was the world like before this catastrophe struck? What were the characteristics of human society in that era? And what was the relationship between humans and God? Exploring the pre-flood world helps us understand human nature from a new perspective, reflect on faith, and better comprehend the significance of the flood story. In today's video, let's journey into the Bible together to uncover the various aspects of human life before the flood and witness the antediluvian civilization described in Genesis. So please subscribe to our channel, watch until the end, and support us with likes and shares. Let more people learn about this amazing history as we explore the meaning of life together. The pre-flood world recorded in Genesis was vastly different from our world today. In that ancient era, humans possessed incredibly long lifespans. Genesis chapter 5 records that Adam, the first man, lived to be 930 years old, and Methuselah was the longest living person of that time. His days on earth reached 969 years, spanning almost 10 centuries. Even Noah, who survived the flood, still lived to be 950 years old. By today's standards, such lifespans seem unbelievable. But in the pre-flood world, being 100 years old was merely considered middle-aged. Why did people live so long before the flood? This was closely related to Earth's environment at that time. The Earth was surrounded by a dense layer of water vapor. It effectively blocked harmful solar radiation while maintaining a warm and humid global climate. In such ideal living conditions, humans naturally grew healthy and strong, living to a natural end. But during the flood, this natural protective shield was violently broken, leading to sudden climate deterioration after the flood. Problems like extreme heat, drought, and radiation followed. Human living conditions steadily worsened, and lifespans dramatically shortened. Besides having extremely long lives, pre-flood humans had another notable characteristic. They could communicate directly with the Creator. God frequently appeared to individuals, conveying messages and instructions. Even after Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden, God still spoke to them multiple times, guiding them on how to live. When Cain killed Abel, God directly questioned him about his brother's whereabouts. And for righteous people, like Enoch, God walked with him in close fellowship, finally taking him up to heaven. Even when human wickedness reached its peak, God still appeared to Noah, prophesying the flood, training him to build the ark. Such frequent and direct interaction between God and humans is unimaginable for people today. However, the pre-flood world was far from perfect. Human corruption and rebellion continued to grow. Genesis chapter 6 contains an intriguing detail. The sons of God saw that human women were beautiful. They married them and had children called the Nephilim. These Nephilim became the famous heroes and warriors, but their evil deeds duly led to God's judgment upon all humanity. Who exactly were these sons of God? Scholars have different interpretations. One view suggests they were fallen angels who rebelled against God. They did not follow God's will, but instead chose to mate with humans, producing hybrid offspring. If this interpretation is correct, then the origin of the Nephilim suggests a shocking rebellion before the flood. Some angels, dissatisfied with their role, sought to challenge the Creator, eventually bringing disaster. Where did this rebellious fall originate? The Bible does not directly explain, but it seems to point to an even more distant past, before humans were created, at the beginning of creation, when the seeds of trouble were first sown. It is said that, at the beginning of creation, God made in his own image a group of noble and holy spiritual beings called angels. Each had their own duties, standing before God's throne. Some delivered divine messages, some executed divine judgment, while others sang praises, worshipping the Creator. Among these angels, Lucifer, because of his exceptional beauty and wisdom, was given the highest position. He was called the bright star, the son of the morning, originally beloved and favored by God, but gradually pride, like a weed, quietly took root and sprouted in Lucifer's heart. His exalted position and abilities caused him to lose himself. He became dissatisfied with his status, fantasizing that one day he could be equal with God, ruling over the entire universe. Thus the seed of evil germinated in his heart. Crazy ambition drove him to betray the Creator. He began to incite other angels, spreading rumors and causing division. Finally, Lucifer led 1/3 of the angels to declare war on God. They wanted to overthrow God's rule and crown themselves king. This was an unprecedented rebellion in heaven, shocking the entire celestial court. God sent the archangel Michael to lead the heavenly army in a life-and-death battle against Lucifer's rebel forces. This unprecedented war lasted for a long time. Finally, through absolute loyalty to God, Michael's heavenly army defeated the rebel forces. Lucifer was vanquished. He and his followers were cast out of heaven, never to return. After being expelled from heaven, Lucifer transformed into Satan, the devil, beginning his reign of chaos on earth. He made earth his kingdom, plotting to destroy all of God's creation. He exploited human weaknesses, tempting people to sin and rebel, inciting wars, creating suffering, repeatedly attempting to destroy God's plans. Thus, a battle between righteousness and evil. On earth, this invisible spiritual battlefield fully unfolded, the clash between light and darkness, the confrontation of justice and evil, became the theme of that era. Innocent humans became victims of this war, living surrounded by sin and temptation. This was the famous rebellion of Lucifer. From then on, the world could never return to its former purity and harmony. And this was just the beginning of all tragedies. The fall of Satan, the devil, became the catalyst for humanity's later fall, while the dramatic heavenly war had not yet settled. God's work of creation had quietly begun. He wanted to establish his kingdom on earth. Let all creation reveal his glory. So, on the 6th day of eternity, God made man in his own image, from the dust of the ground, distinctly different from other creatures. God gave humans supreme status, to rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living creature on the ground. Humans thus became masters of the earth, carrying the divine mission of managing all things. The first pair of humans God created were Adam and Eve. He placed them in the Garden of Eden. There they walked closely with the Creator, each day immersed in pure joy. The garden had all kinds of fruit trees, providing for their daily needs. Only the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil was forbidden by God. However, Satan, cast out of heaven, set his sights on this innocent pair. He possessed a cunning serpent, secretly entering the Garden of Eden to tempt Eve. Your eyes will be opened when you eat it. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. He denied God's command. Eve believed the devil's sweet words. She was tempted to pick the forbidden fruit. She tasted its sweet flavor, then gave it to her husband, Adam. Adam also ate the forbidden fruit. At the moment they tasted the forbidden fruit, Human perspective broadened, yet simultaneously fell into the bondage of sin. Their former innocence vanished like smoke. Shame and fear began to torment their souls. Like guilty thieves, they hurriedly made clothes from leaves to cover their shame. When God came to walk with them in the garden, they hid in fear, unable to face him. Thus the once intimate relationship between humans and God was broken. The noble status and mission originally given to humanity became difficult to bear. Sin, like invisible chains, separated them from their Creator. Humans began living in hiding and fear, until one day, the gates of Eden closed firmly behind them. After Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden, they began to multiply in hardship and difficulty. The consequences of sin manifested in their descendants. Their first two sons, one, called Cain, was a farmer, the other, called Abel, was a shepherd. Days passed, one by one. The brothers grew into adults, each worshipping the one true God in their own way. One day, they each brought offerings from their produce to present to the Lord. Cain brought fruits of the ground, while Abel brought firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. This different treatment made Cain furiously angry. His face darkened with rage. Jealousy and hatred churned in his heart. Satan seized this opportunity, whispering in his ear, "Why should you be inferior to your brother? Have you not worked as hard as he has? God is biased, treating you unfairly. You must fight for justice under the devil's instigation." Cain deceived his own blood relative. He said to Abel with false intentions, "Let us go out to the field." The brothers went to the field. Cain suddenly had murderous thoughts. He attacked his unsuspecting brother, killing him brutally. Blood stained the soil. The first murder in human history happened just like that. The Lord knew of this horrifying crime. He asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain argued cunningly, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" God pointed directly to his sin. "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." He severely rebuked Cain's brutal act, declaring he would be cursed. "From now on, when you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Hearing the judgment, Cain trembled as if plunged into ice. He pleaded with God, saying, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land. I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer. Whoever finds me will kill me, even with such evil." God still had mercy on this grave sinner. He put a mark on Cain, so no one who found him would kill him. From then on, Cain left his homeland, destined to live a life of hiding and wandering. He went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Abel's death plunged Adam and Eve into deep sorrow. They lost a godly son who served the Lord, while the shadow of sin grew darker in their family. Just when they were losing hope, God opened a way through their despair. When Adam was 130 years old, Eve bore another son. They named him Seth, meaning appointed, for God had appointed them another son. To replace Abel, who was killed by Cain, Seth was born in Adam's likeness, in God's image. He showed clear signs of reverence for the Lord, a righteous man who pleased God. When Seth grew up, he married and had children. His descendants began to multiply, gradually forming a godly family line. They became known for calling on the name of the Lord, a rare community of faith in those times. Seth's son, Enosh, inherited his father's faith. He lived for 305 years, had many children, led his family in worshipping the Lord. His descendants continued this godly tradition. calling on the name of the Lord generation after generation. Enoshi's great-grandson Methuselah lived to be 969 years old, the longest living person recorded in the Bible, and his grandson Lamech was Noah's father. When Lamech named his son Noah, he said, "This one will comfort us in our labor, and in the painful toil of our hands." These words were full of expectation, seeming to predict that Noah would bring great comfort. But no one could have guessed. Years later, this child, named Comfort, would, in an unexpected way, save humanity from destruction. As time passed, human society's moral condition worsened. The early lessons and warnings were forgotten. Human hearts continued to fall, following fleshly desires. Sin grew and spread wildly on earth. The thoughts of people were evil all the time. Violence, murder, and immorality became commonplace. There was no longer genuine feeling between people. Deception, betrayal, and selfishness became the norm. The whole society's morals collapsed with evil everywhere. More shocking still, fallen angels came down to earth. They took the form of handsome men and had relations with beautiful women on earth. They indulged in lust, despising God's law, producing evil and powerful offspring, the Nephilim. They were inhuman giants, physically huge and mighty, with extraordinary abilities and irresistible strength. They were fierce, violent, and cruel, committing evil everywhere, oppressing people. Under their leadership, human society fell to unprecedented depths. The book of Jude, verses 14 to 15, records a righteous man named Enoch. He pleased God deeply with his devotion and faithfulness. God took him to heaven without tasting death. But before his translation, Enoch left a dramatic prophecy. He spoke of God's coming with thousands of his holy ones, to execute judgment on everyone and punish the ungodly for their wickedness. His prophecy caused quite a stir at the time, becoming a topic of daily conversation, but it failed to awaken repentance in people's hearts. Instead, it provoked much resentment and hostility. As the Nephilim wreaked havoc, human society's sin reached its peak. The world was completely shrouded in evil, from kings to common people. Almost no one was spared from total corruption, idolatry, immorality, theft. All kinds of evil ran rampant. Society deteriorated. Life became unbearable. Injustice was everywhere. Survival of the fittest became the rule of life. The evil in human nature was fully unleashed. Brutality conquered reason and conscience. The cancer of sin had spread to every corner. The whole world was sinking in sin beyond recovery. When human evil reached its peak, God's heart was filled with grief. He saw that the humans he had originally created had completely departed from his will, becoming unrecognizable beyond cure. God decided to judge this fallen world with a flood. His gaze descended from heaven, seeking his faithful servant. Finally, resting on a righteous man named Noah. Noah was a man of noble character who feared God. His righteousness was unique in those times, like a lamp shining in darkness, as recorded in Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. Noah was righteous and blameless among the people of his time. He walked with God, filled with divine wisdom and power. When God declared his judgment to Noah, he also gave him grace, preparing an ark for escape. Though Noah was unfamiliar with the concept of a flood, he accepted God's commission without doubt. When he received the mission to build the ark from the Most High, he immediately began the century-long construction project, as recorded in Genesis chapter 6, verses 14 to 16. God gave him detailed specifications for building the ark. Make it of gopher wood, coat it with pitch, inside and out. 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high. Build it with 3 decks, and put a door in the side, Facing such an enormous project, Noah did not hesitate. He accepted God's commands completely, executing them precisely. Even when those around him did not understand, Noah did not mind. Thus Noah led his family, building day and night, through spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Noah maintained his faith and patience consistently. Finally, after nearly 120 years of diligent work, a massive, well-constructed ark rose from the ground, standing majestically before all. When God spoke to Noah again that the flood was imminent, Noah began preparations for boarding. Following God's instructions, he brought various animals into the ark. Of all clean animals, those suitable for food and sacrifice. Noah took 7 pairs of each. Of the unclean animals, those not suitable for food, he took 1 pair of each. Thus Noah led all creatures, according to their kinds in pairs, into the ark. Besides the animals, Noah had to store enough food for his family to sustain them through the long journey. He stored large quantities of grain, dried fruits, preserved meat, holding them into the ark's storage rooms. When everything was ready, Noah led his wife's sons and daughters-in-law onto the ark. 7 days after Noah's family entered the ark, the flood judgment poured down, beginning its world-destroying devastation. The fountains of the deep burst forth, roaring and surging. Torrential rain poured down, continuing for 40 days and nights without cease. The floodwaters overwhelmed the earth with tremendous force. Nothing survived where the waters passed. Bustling cities were swallowed in an instant. Prosperous plains vanished in moments. Even mountain ranges were mere pebbles in the roaring torrent, quickly submerged beneath the endless waters. No living creature on earth was spared. Thus the flood prevailed on earth for 150 days. All high mountains were covered invisible beneath the waters. Only the ark, carrying earth's remaining life, floated lonely on the endless water surface. After 150 days, the waters fully receded. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. Noah first opened the ark, releasing a raven and a dove, to explore if the earth had renewed life, suitable for habitation. When the dove returned, with a fresh olive leaf, Noah knew the flood had completely receded. The earth had renewed its vibrant life. Noah led his family out of the ark, stepping onto long mist land. Standing on Mount Ararat, they looked in all directions. The once bustling world now lay desolate. The flood took everything, but also washed away sin. The earth was renewed, ready with potential, waiting for a new beginning. Noah was grateful, knowing all came from God's grace. Noah devoutly built an altar. He offered clean animals and birds upon it, presenting burnt offerings of thanksgiving to the Lord. The pleasing aroma drifted upward, reaching the heavens. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and was filled with joy. He accepted Noah's sincere sacrifice and his grateful, devout heart. In Noah, God saw the precious goodness and beauty in human nature. God said to Noah, "I will never again curse the ground because of humans, nor will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. I establish my covenant with you and your descendants, and with every living creature from the ark. Never again will floodwaters destroy all life. This is my everlasting covenant with all living creatures." Then God set a rainbow in the clouds, a sign of his love, an eternal promise. Whenever dark clouds gather and heavy rain falls, the rainbow appears timely in the clouds, showing God's care and blessing for humanity, reminding all that God's covenant with Noah endures forever. As Noah's family left the ark, the flood story drew to a close. But this was just the beginning. How would Noah's descendants multiply and form various nations? What amazing chapters of history would they write? These will be the topics of our next video. Feel free to share your unique insights in the comments. If this video has moved or inspired you, please subscribe to ensure you won't miss any future updates. Please share these precious insights with others. Every share, every like, will be our greatest support and encouragement moving forward. May God bless you. Amen.